This program is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, who's expanding its services to offer low-cost blood screenings all year round, now offering walk-in convenience to get the blood tests you want when you want them. MyLabs, patient-ordered testing, is available in Farmington at the hospital's laboratory and the Outpatient Diagnostic Center on 30th Street. Also in Aztec at San Juan Health Partners Family Medicine at 120 Llanos Street. With nearly 20 tests available, there's an option for everyone. MyLabs, patient-ordered testing, a wellness service of San Juan Regional Medical Center. Eleven minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Thursday morning, October the 25th. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin, and thank you for joining us this morning at KSJE 90.9 FM and 90.9 HD, the information and cultural beacon of the Four Corners. Special good morning to our viewers who are watching us live this morning on Facebook and YouTube. Coming up on the program today, we are talking economic development, and we'll be talking with Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett about some of the programs and projects that are planned for the MRA, that is the Metropolitan Redevelopment Area in downtown Farmington. We hope to do that in the next few moments here on KSJE, and later on in the hour we'll be joined by some consultants the city has hired from Albuquerque to talk about some specific projects for the MRA and for the downtown area. So that's coming up in just a few moments here on KSJE. Later on, of course, it's Roving with the Arts, and Mick Hess will be here at 9 a.m. Mick is working through the Haydn Symphonies every Thursday for us. Today, no different. We'll hear another great Haydn Symphony today at 9, as well as some arts news and other goings-on today on Roving with the Arts at 9. That takes us to noon and our local movie review program, A Review Too Far, and it's just in time for the film Halloween, the latest installment of that franchise after 40 years after the first film came out. We will hear what our movie reviewers thought about the latest Halloween franchise film coming up today at noon on KSJE. And of course, you can always check out our programming schedule by going to our website at ksje.com. That's also where you'll find our regional events calendar at ksje.com. We spend a lot of time and effort to compile a lot of local and regional events to show you what's going on in the area. Here in the area, Beyond Words art exhibit continuing at the Henderson Fine Arts Center. Don't forget about the Indian New Deal in the Southwest, one of the Chautauqua performances tomorrow here at San Juan College. On Saturday, the big Halloween Carnival here at San Juan College, of course. Craft Fair at San Juan Center for Independence happening tomorrow. There's a featured artist show at the Feet of Clay Co-op Gallery in Aztec. The Fry Bread Cook-Off Friday night at the Farmington Public Library. I'll be there for that event. Lots of things in the area going on. Just check out our regional events calendar at ksje.com. Well, as I mentioned, we are talking about economic development in downtown Farmington as part of the MRA, and that is the Metropolitan Redevelopment Area. And I want to show you a little bit of the map that we are talking about, because it is somewhat hard to describe for folks who are watching on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel this morning. So let me show you that really quick for folks who are watching, and we can try to describe it as well. That's the page I'm looking for. It's basically an area south of Apache Street, including most of the downtown area, all the way in some sections down to the Animas River and other areas down to Pinon Street, and as far west, I would say, over as the Apache or the Main and Broadway Y. That is what we're talking about, and that seems to be the map that we want to talk about here for the MRA. So what projects would you like to see? You can certainly let us know. You can comment on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, and we will pass those messages along to the mayor and the planners who will be joining us later on this morning. If you want to give me a call and talk on the air about some of the projects for downtown Farmington that you would like to see, you can do that too. Our phone number here is 505-566-3909. 566-3909 is the phone number, and you can give us a call and let us know what you think the project should be for downtown Farmington. Let us know. Of course, the city is already committed to a lot of redevelopment projects on the Main Street area. That construction is set to start early next year in 2019, and that is a plan to kind of narrow Main Street from 4 lanes down to 1 lane, also take out many of the stoplights in downtown Farmington, and also put in some roundabouts, some traffic circles as well. And so we will be talking about that in addition to that this morning. And I am grateful to see that the mayor has joined us in the studio. Mayor, good morning. As you get settled here, how are you, sir?
Wonderful, sir. How are you?
We'll have you kind of get settled as I still talk to everyone. I've kind of let them know what we're going to be talking about this morning, and so I appreciate you being here to talk a little bit about the MRA and the efforts that the city is doing to spark some more redevelopment efforts in the MRA. And so, welcome.
Well, good to be here.
You're kind of settled, so thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Nothing like joining me mid-show, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, whatever we can do to promote the city, Scott, that's what I'm here for.
I know that you're always welcome to come, and I appreciate that. And so this is the MRA. Give us a little bit of a background, if you could, on what the MRA was designed to do in downtown Farmington.
Sure. So many years ago, our city fathers got together and said, look, we need to find a way to focus our energy on the redevelopment of downtown. They saw it as an opportunity for economic development, as a regional attraction to our area. Certainly, you know, a small town that has a quality downtown has an air about it that people remember, and it brings them back to it. So they had put together the MRA and had set a plan to go forward that included an MRA commission that also provided some goals and things that they wanted to accomplish, and zoning, and different things like that. And what we've come back to now is that it's time to update that plan.
Got you. And I was talking just before you came in, Mr. Mayor, about the area that we're talking about with the MRA, and it's really a little bit more than what we consider downtown Farmington, the Main and Broadway corridors, if you will, but it kind of spreads beyond that, a little bit south, around the hospital area, in some areas all the way down to the river. To the Animas River, and to the north, about as far north as Apache Street, I believe.
So it encompasses the Civic Center area, the Animas District. A lot of these plans have some big, hairy, audacious goals, as I like to use that term, that includes trying to find a pathway from Orchard or streets like that that would connect the downtown to the river corridor. But yeah, it is a very large area. It's not just simply 2 streets.
And so I guess the reason it is such a large area is so it can include maybe some retail, housing, industrial types of projects. It has that big enough area to maybe attract all the above.
We want it to be a mixed use area, so to speak. And when you find yourself in a downtown like Denver, for example, where you have residential on top of retail, and it's where people can walk to the store, walk to their house, walk to their work, those types of models, that's the kind of thing that we have in mind that we like to see there. Obviously, we've got a great professional group of people who work at the hospital, and we see it as a great area for those individuals who would like to walk to work, so to speak, that they could utilize facilities down there. But we do this MRA thing, and we are invested in this idea because we think that if there's a public component to it that kicks this off, that the private businesses and the private development will come. I mean, that's kind of the mentality of it because we've seen it work in other places.
But certainly we can't compare Farmington to Denver. Denver has a lot more people, right?
No, it's a totally different, certainly. But
the concept you're talking about.
Well, but Grand Junction's another example.
Similar.
Pueblo's got some similar things that they have done to try and reinvigorate their areas after they lost their steel mills. Those things.
Sure. And so what you're saying is that this idea can work in a smaller city like Farmington sized.
Of course. Yeah. Well, certainly we're invested in that idea. So either it works or we're all fools.
Well, I hope that's not the case.
Which can be true too.
I don't think that's true. But I know the city is putting a lot of effort, a lot of resources behind some of these economic development projects and efforts. I mentioned briefly the already underway project for downtown, the Main Street area that
Streets project.
Exactly, which will be starting up in 2019. In at least construction starting up. The planning's already underway.
Well, and think about that. It was 2009 when the original MRA plan came out. So at 10 years, we're now going to see this big project kick off that really is going to change the entire dynamics of Main Street. The Civic Center upgrade that's going on, the developments like the La Terraza apartments there that are west of the hospital. We've seen more, of course, investment from the medical community. Presbyterian Medical Services has spent quite a bit of money in that area. So we're seeing a lot of other companies come along here. And, you know, obviously the MRA plan is guidance for those major projects and policy improvements, which we've also done a tax increment financing district, the TIF district, just for downtown so that we can get additional funding into that area.
Now, how does that work? If you can tell us, it brings you more revenue in for some help for that?
Well, it's specific to that area. So
okay.
If there's any increments of tax that are put in after we pass that TIF, those increments don't go to the general fund. They stay within the district downtown.
I see.
That's my understanding of it now.
Dedicated funding.
Dedicated funding to downtown.
Right. And this was passed before you became mayor.
No, this was passed. Oh, before I was mayor. Correct. This was 2 years ago, I think.
A couple years ago. You're on the council.
I was.
But not as mayor.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
And that's what we're talking about. And so, again, then this is another, I think you all like to use the word tool in the toolbox to kind of help private businesses and give the city a bit more tools to maybe help with development in this area that we're talking about.
Sure. And the MRA Commission, there was also dedicated funding that was going to the MRA so that companies or businesses down there could use that as a payback for any investments that they were making to the facade. There were certain criteria they had to meet, you know, if they wanted to do facade improvements, if they wanted assistance in paying for sprinklers that had to be put in. That MRA Commission, that group, helped pay for some of those costs.
Got you. And that's a separate board that meets separately and deals with some of these projects and how to spend this money.
It's an advisory commission, certainly, and they provide that input to the city council, who makes the ultimate decisions on how those things play out. So,
I see.
Yeah.
Got you. And again, this is an area that the city has decided to kind of pay special attention to. Rather than, I can see folks maybe on the east side of town saying, well, why don't I get special consideration for my business on the east side? Why is it just the downtown area? But this is an area that the city has said maybe needs some special attention. A lot of folks consider downtown as the heart of any community, and I think that's kind of the city's feeling as well.
Well, there's a national movement in regards to downtowns. There's a lot of grant funding that's available specific to downtowns and those historic areas and communities. And when you have something that's down there, you don't want it to rot. And if you can take advantage of those programs that the federal government's made available, the state government's made available, the Main Street programs have put out there, and you see that you have a gem that you could really shine up, then we want to try and shine that up. The other component is, too, it's a very different environment from shopping in a downtown district as opposed to shopping into a big box district, so to speak, which is what we have on the east side of town. I had a meeting yesterday with some people from Albuquerque who were up here talking about the new New Mexico United pro soccer team. And they said, man, we're just blown away by all the big box names that you have in your community. And it is. It's very interesting because you go to a place like Flagstaff, and it's a lot of local, and Durango, a lot of local things like that. But we can see where that will work in our downtown district, where we will have that local feel to it, local businesses, restaurants, retail, arts and entertainment being another big deal, because we just formed the newly Arts and Cultural District, which also provides tax credits for renovating historic properties.
And that is within the MRA.
Right.
And so, again, and these things are kind of designed, I think, to work together, to work maybe on top of each other, so that if you have an Arts and Cultural District in an MRA, that maybe opens up the possibility for more grant opportunities or what have you, or a historic district, or all those things.
It's like checking off a box in some of these grant applications. You know, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? And we believe that we're doing those things as much as we can.
Sure.
Michael Bullock, of course, who's on the show frequently. He obviously is our ambassador for that area, and we have a lot of positive people in the downtown area. Business owners who are very supportive of the things that we're trying to do, because they recognize the potential for them, recognize the potential for new businesses to come in, and new residents. Sure.
And the city, again, is kind of driving all this with some of these other public projects, as we've talked about, with the Main Street project, the work at the Civic Center. I mean, that whole neighborhood, I think, is getting a brand new look to it with the landscaping and other things that we'll be seeing and enjoying at the Civic Center, not too far away.
No, very excited about, my hopes is that we'll have something done and ready by the time Christmas rolls around. So when we do our Christmas lighting and
Sure.
Our Main Street Christmas program that we do each year, that people will be able to come down and kind of be like the ribbon cutting, so to speak, and
Right.
and get it pulled out. But yeah, we're going to have a fountain in the middle of that facility in the outdoors area there
I hear the ice rink is coming back for Christmas, for the holidays.
for at least one more year, Scott.
Huh?
One more year.
I hear it's coming. We could do it.
Can we call it ice? I don't know.
Well, right.
yeah.
Okay. The skating rink. I'm sorry.
Skating,
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, we're doing that one more year.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a whole new look for that area and provide more uses for people, specifically at the Civic Center area, but as it ties into the downtown. I mean, I want to see more festivals and markets and, shutting down Orchard or parts of Main Street so that we can have more Friday night events during the summer. And there's a lot of things that I think we can do that we haven't quite scratched the surface on.
Right. And you mentioned before the ability to try to connect some of these neighborhoods, some of these regions of the downtown area together, because a lot of folks may think, well, I know Main Street, I know Broadway, I know Arrington Civic Center area, but to connect all those and even to connect maybe a pathway down to the river, down along South Orchard or whatever that corridor might be, but that's ultimately, I think, the vision, right?
It is. So even consider this. There's a property on Pinion and Miller Street. Many people have driven by it. It's got dilapidated buildings that have been burned out. Sits right across the street from Boyd Park, right on the river. So as part of the community transformation, economic diversification efforts, we've just purchased that property because we see it as a strategic property for future uses, whether it's for a makerspace, for a private company that wants to use it as a river-type corridor thing. So we're putting our money where our mouth is, so to speak, and we're making those investments so that we can shore up the efforts in that area.
Right. And the other things that you're doing, too, that the council has agreed to do, as you mentioned, putting your money where your mouth is approving that that gross receipts tax increase to specifically fund some of these economic development efforts. Because a lot of times we hear communities that say, well, we'd love to do this, 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 and this if only we had the money to pay for it. And the city of Farmington has come up and said, we want to do this, this, and this, and here's a way that we think we can pay for it as well to get it moving.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what that CTED, as I call it
yes,
now.
Right. I forgot the acronym that you had made up for that. Yes.
So the purchase of that property, and then there's other properties that are coming available along the river corridor. We've made the riverine section a really important component of the growth of this city, certainly in attracting outdoor recreation and outdoor industry. And we're trying to get that property shored up so that we have access not just for public use but also for private use as well. So many people ask me all the time, how come we don't have more businesses on the river? How come we don't have restaurants and hotels on the river? Well, the fact is we do. We do in some areas, but in other areas we don't own any of that land. And we go back to this idea of what was our history like in the 1950s and 60s when we zoned those areas off of Main Street where the river is at. Well, we gave those to industry because they were the ones bringing people in and creating jobs for our community. Now, of course, we're finding ways to go in there and buy back what we can, and we have great visions for what that future use can be.
Very exciting. Nate Duckett is my guest this morning. We are talking about the Metropolitan redevelopment area in downtown Farmington. There are some public forums planned for tomorrow and Saturday, and we're going to be talking about those more specifically with our guests from the consulting firm that the city has hired from Albuquerque to talk a little bit about that. But that is kind of the reason why we're doing that and having this conversation this morning.
Right. So I know that Ben's going to be on here, I believe, after this, right? Yeah. Talking about it from ARC Planning. But I'm
hoping. My fingers are crossed. I'm hoping he's going to be on.
I've got this email here that says
I know.
He's going to be here,
I have
right?
that one too. Yes, sir.
But to what we're trying to do, and the reason I'm even on the show this morning, is we want public feedback. That's how the original MRA plan is. You're going to see a lot of these things certainly coming forward for all the different types of projects that the city is looking at doing. We need our community to come together and say, these are the things that we see, because there's a lot of ideas that come out of public comment sessions, things like that. But you're going to get tomorrow and Saturday the opportunity to sit and listen to the people who are involved intimately with these projects, and hopefully stir up some thoughts and ideas within the community of, why don't we do this? Or I've seen this somewhere else. Have we thought about trying this? And maybe somebody hasn't thought about it. Or maybe we've not put enough effort to it. And now that we've kind of changed the dynamics of what the city is effectively trying to fund to do, Well, I think a lot of things are back on the table again that weren't there before.
Right. It's kind of a new environment.
It is.
With some of this money that you've got
It's
to
an optimistic
invest.
environment. Yes, sir.
Right. And investing, I think, is the right word to use.
That is 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Mayor Duckett, stand by if you would for the next segment. We're going to take a short break. Let you get your breath a little bit.
All right.
And when we come back, more with my guests in just a moment. And as I mentioned, we'll be joined by some of the other guests that we have lined up this morning from Albuquerque, who are part of this consulting firm the city has brought on board to discuss these projects in detail. When we come back in just a moment, this is KSJE, and the time is 8:30.